I think we're live. Good morning, folks. Wherever you are out there, welcome. You are listening to the Charge Life podcast. I am Joseph Barletta, and this is where we discuss EVs and all things EV charging. So glad you could pull over and park with us today. Hey, let's get plugged in. Look, today's episode is all about Tesla Supercharger Magic Dock versus ChargePoint's new Omniport. You're going to love this one. Before we begin, today's episode is brought to you by Smart Charge America. Since 2007, Smart Charge America has installed tens of thousands of EV charging stations nationwide. Same for you. Whether in the home, service, or commercial, let their team of expert installation specialists guide you to the best solution for your EV charging needs. After all, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Visit smartchargeamerica.com today to get started. Okay, Tesla Supercharging Magic Dock versus ChargePoint's Omniport. Now, ideal-wise, this episode is really kind of all about the debut of ChargePoint's Omniport, but my goal was to kind of cross-compare both of them. But let's just take a real deep dive into, kind of the whole ChargePoint realm. So ChargePoint is a charging provider. So they specifically provide the hardware to businesses or to commercial contractors or to, let's say, charging operators that enable the function of charging stations to exist, right, to operate. So other than that, some of the recent news that ChargePoints came up with is, if you guys can check it out, this is our first time actually doing a live stream with the ability to actually look at like sharing screens and stuff like that. So actually, it's kind of cool, but I'm trying to do it myself. So give me work with me here. But on that end, ChargePoint did recently hit a really good milestone where they've provided more than 1 million charging stations across the U.S. And so that's pretty cool. 1 millionth charging station, public EV charger. Congratulations, guys. That's that's huge. Now, from talks with their CEO, from recent interviews, we're seeing that it's taken them bit a part of 17 years, just like us, to actually hit that 1 million. What we're hoping and what they hope to do is over the next year or two, maybe they hit the next million. And maybe they hit, throw another zero on top of that. Maybe they hit 10 million in the next 5 years. Who knows? But we're hoping to see a very much accelerated growth with that. Now, that being said, if you look at where Tesla is now, I believe we're still kind of not Tesla, but ChargePoint. If you look at where ChargePoint is now on the stock market, they're trading somewhere. They've been around 181 pretty much all day. They're up 182 now. $1.82 now. Just to be honest, I believe when they IPO'd, their stock went up to, I believe, somewhere in the 30s or 40s. You might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. I can actually come here. Let's take a look at the 5-year chart. They were up in the 40s. I purchased their stock, I believe, somewhere up here, but I did sell their stock around the 30 mark. But for some reason, they're teetering on a very, very slim line, especially when it comes to that all knowing $1 per share mark. That's like where you get your notices from, from NASDAQ, and basically you get delisted from the stock exchange. So hopefully they can stay above that $1 mark. But they are redlining. But honestly, if you look at a lot of the other companies, Blink, EVgo, Wallbox, these are traditional charging operators, and they're still relatively very, very much low. That being said, just wanted to kind of congratulate ChargePoint. Did debut their Omni charging port for their fast charging models this past week. Actually, it was I believe it was about 7 days ago when they did the actual debut. So let me see if I could pull up a little bit here just to kind of showcase exactly like what we're looking at when it comes to the Omni. Omniport is Omniport is basically just the Tesla Supercharger Magic Dock flipped inside out. And so if you're experienced with Tesla and you're in the no space, you know that the Magic Dock is a NACS to CCS adapter that's literally built into the charging holster that's easily accessed one or the other through either the touchscreen or, in this case, the app for Tesla. Well, the Omniport operates the same way, but it's flipped. So it's a CCS to NACS adapter that's built inside the charging holster and accessed through either the screen right then and there at the point of sale or through the app. And so you basically just tell it what car you have, and then it does it automatically for you through the app. If you're on the screen, just tell it exactly what you want to do on the screen, and it goes from there. So let me see if I can show you guys. This is on ChargePoint's website. Let's see here. You'll actually be able to see, kind of showcase what it looks like. This is one of their DC fast charging units. That is one of the AC Magic, I guess in this case, Omni docks that they have on their AC unit, which is great. They do plan on rolling both of these out in September of this year, so that's next month. Now, this is only going to be available for the CP6000 product line, in addition to the, I believe it's the Express Power Plus Link 2000 DC fast charging product line that it's going to be actually available to. So, again, their Omniport, they're trying to make sure that what they're doing is they're copying the Magic Dock from Tesla, but they're flipping it on its head. They're doing the opposite on the actual docking system itself. You got to remember, look, the industry was easily at 5 plugs, literally 2 plugs for AC connectors and 3 plugs for DC fast charging connectors. So the industry, it was like plug wars, right? I mean, the industry was always at a minimum of 5 connectors just to plug in a charge, like an EV. You didn't know, no, it basically was very confusing for consumers. And so we're hoping that, this, on the release of the Omniport, we're hoping that basically it just kind of helps consolidate the industry, going from 5 ports, J1772, Tesla, Chatamo, what is it, CCS, I mean, it was a lot. And so we're consolidating that. I guess. Wait, let's see here. No, let's see. On AC, it was the Tesla charger port and the J1772, and then on DC, it was the Tesla charging port, the Chatamo, and the CCS. So I guess you could say it was 4 ports, 5 standards, 4 ports. The Tesla standard basically worked both on AC and DC together. And so this is the little video here of their DC component. You can see it pulls out. You let it know if you're a Tesla driver or a regular EV driver, and it gives you the adapter or the regular standard connector with. But overall, I think it's a really good product. It will bridge the gap on the industry and what the industry does. But unfortunately, this is only it is able to be retrofitted on some of the existing CP6000s that are out on the open market. I do not believe it's able to be retrofitted for the Express Power Plus Link 2000 DC fast charging series, but it very well could, since they are just kind of releasing that model in the public now. It may be retrofitted. So I think the retrofit, it comes with these products right now if you purchase them now, but the retrofit is out of pocket for the business owner if they would like to get it retrofitted for their particular site. So ChargePoint did mention that they are working on a home charger for the most part, in the same capacity to basically have literally, kind of the same with which Tesla has for their universal wall connector. And I can show you guys a little bit about the I guess on that end, on the Tesla universal wall connector, on what that kind of looks like. Let's see here if I can find. There's a magnet dock, and so check this out. So you can. This is Tesla's universal wall connector, and so you can see it works the opposite, right? If you have a Tesla, you just pull it out, you just charge. If you have a universal EV, you push the little button towards the top, and then it pulls out the adapter that's connected to the connector. So it's basically all in one. So if you guys can, like we talked about, the retrofits are available for the CP6000 units and these Express Power Plus units, but they will be done at a separate charge. If you guys can, go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. If you comment, like, subscribe, let us know how we're doing on this live stream, streaming, sharing screen, and all that stuff. I'm probably horrible at it at first, honestly, but it is what it is. So the Tesla Supercharger Magic Dock is rolling out. You can see from us sharing the screen here, basically Magic Dock on this end that it was they started retrofitting some of the older version 3 superchargers with the Magic Dock. And Essentially, all it is it's the same thing. The adapter is a holster where the connector is seated, and essentially, once they there we go. And so that's how it looks in the retrofit. And once you have your app and you let it know if you have a non-Tesla, then what will happen is it'll engage the actual adapter, and then you'll be able to use a Tesla supercharger on a non-Tesla vehicle at a Tesla supercharger site. So, but one of the cool things are that was the retrofit. Now, since then, Tesla's actually started installing their V4 superchargers, and so you can see these are a couple pictures of the V4 superchargers. But you'll see here, these are out of of course, Europe, and so they just started doing a lot more. You're starting to see a lot more of these sites here in the U.S. And so if you see here, this is a CCS user. Uh, that's basically, you can see the adapter kind of right here. So the Tesla V4 superchargers are actually including the Magic Dock inside the actual setup. So there is no retrofit. Like these stations are literally built on that. Now, if you want to look at like, okay, what's the mix of the, you know, 25,000 ports that Tesla has out in the US right now? Like how many of those are the V4? No, less than 1%. I mean, every single one that they're actually pulling online are the V4 superchargers, but they are far few in between. So it's going to take Tesla a couple of years to actually catch up. So what we plan on seeing is these V4 superchargers. They still behind the cabinets. They still have V3 charging power and electronics behind the cabinets, and so we're still not seeing the all knowing 350 kW output out of these chargers. Although there has been a report recently that a Cybertruck had hit one. I think they're testing it, so but we should be able to find out a little bit more about that in the future. But needless to say, the initial 12, when Tesla originally rolled out their Magic Dock back in 2023, they were on the retrofit list. And one of the things that they actually did was, if you go here, you can see um, Tesla. What they did was went in and they started retrofitting just like maybe 12 locations all across the US, but a majority of them were over here in the New York, Buffalo based area because that's where the superchargers are literally created. That's where they're built at Giga Buffalo. Okay. And so, yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. They would retrofit some of these, test it out, figure out on their test bed how they're doing, how they're compatible with other EVs. And I believe they opened them up to, I think it was Rivian, Lucid, one that had used these, if I'm not mistaken, before they actually opened up the protocol. But I do believe that we did see Lucids. We saw basically every EV out there. Rivian, Ford, any EV out there with a CCS connector. Um, Charging port, they actually had that in there. But you can see a few of them over here in the test beds, and then of course you got Giga Nevada, Giga Austin, and so they were using these test beds. But that was back in like 2023, September 2023. Since then, we haven't seen any growth of that retrofitting of existing V3 superchargers. What we have seen is the V4 superchargers actually being installed, and those are actually included with the Magic Dock. So again, the Magic Dock is there. We we really thought that if you look at the stretch that Tesla has right now, if I can go and show you, this is actually like live from Tesla map right here. So these are all the superchargers now that are open to other EVs. And if you look, that is way more than 12, but still kind of in that New York area, high population areas. You start to see a little bit more spread. They're covering the the really well traveled routes, the high end, densely populated interstate traveling routes. But you can see overall, you might be able to make it somewhere in here, but it still needs a little bit more of a build out than otherwise anticipated. But it's definitely a lot more than 12. It's like literally a year, and they've only installed, I don't know. It's like maybe, let's say maybe 150 and let's say 200 chargers on this map that are uh, either retrofitted or the V4 chargers. So, kudos. These are superchargers that work with other EVs. So we know that. So that's good. So again, one of the things that the industry has been taught, we talked about this, right? You had 5 ports or 4 ports, and we're all consolidating to one port. Now that one port will be the Tesla NACS standard, which of course they're calling the J3400 standard. And so, everyone calls it Tesla. We're calling it NACS. You can hear it called, J3400. They're all the same standard. There is a little bit of technical difference between Tesla standard and the J3400, but we'll cross that bridge on another time. But these modifications, they're kind of like the gateway drug. They're temporary, but they're necessary as a gateway drug to bring the industry from those 4 ports to one port, right? And so, as the industry shifts to that J3400 standard, in the next 5 years, we're talking 2030, 2035, you're going to need this kind of retrofit in place. And then basically, what's going to happen is from that point on, you're going to have a majority, basically all of the chargers are just going to have a single actual port. I will tell you that one of the things that we've seen is the see if I can find the video. It was actually uh, pretty nice YouTube video here on. Here we go. So I'll show you. Take a look at it. This one's nice. Now, again, we don't really do a lot with adapters. We do not like adapters. Any chance that we can actually use a port like this, where it's straight cable to the actual connector and it's feeding the EV, just like what you see here on ChargePoint's retrofit on the NACS standard. That's what we want to see. In theory, that's what we want to see. But if this solution is a hybrid to that, it helps the adoption accelerate a lot more fast as these EVs now, effective 2025, will start having the actual charging port itself in these newer EVs retrofitted with the actual J3400, like the Tesla charging port, the J3400 charging port in the vehicles. So they won't have any more of the J1772 or the CCS. They'll literally be built with the J3400 standard in there as a charging port. And so having this option, it basically allows Teslas and non-Teslas to charge, and it's very, very simple, very easy, and very convenient for the customer. Now, again, it's an adapter. You can see this big, bulky adapter, connected to this giant connector. That's this huge, heavy cable. That is a recipe for disaster when it comes to like electrical. Like, I can't believe I'm looking at it. That gives me like PTSD because we would much prefer the actual standard where it's just the actual connector. You can see, I think they pull it out in this retrofit right here. That's what we would prefer right there. We want just the straight cable to the connector going directly to the car. There's no adapters, no interlocking links. These are all failure points that can basically exhaust the user and lead to very, very bad experiences. Now, we do know that the adapter itself is 800-volt limited, and so that does make it one tough adapter. I'm telling you this right now. It is one of the more powerful adapters on the marketplace. I believe the Magic Dock operates in the same voltage limitations, but look, that's only voltage. Remember, you need voltage and amperage to figure out what your kW output on these charging stations are. And so there's a good chance that maybe the CCS will only be able to pull let's say 150 to your car, but the adapter will only be able to pull 100 kW to your car. So there may be some limitations with regards to the amperage. We don't know yet. We're going to get more information hopefully as the weeks come in and as we see these charging Omni ports actually live out in the wild. We'll be able to test them. But for the most part, that's what we know. So 800-volt limitation on the voltage. We don't know yet the amperage limitations on there. And so we don't really understand yet how the adapter is going to affect different make and models of EVs. But we'll get to that, like we said, when we cross the bridge. The key question is right now, will ChargePoint open source this OmniPort technology that they developed to other EV charging OEMs, or will other EV charging OEMs, kind of have enough prowess and enough engineering know-how to go and create a similar, form factor on this? We don't know. If ChargePoint's open this up to other EV charging OEMs, it will help accelerate the movement of electric vehicles faster. but then they don't have a moat of IP that they can secure, another moat that they can secure, another feather in the cap. But for the most part, that's it. Again, Smart Charge America, like we talked about, we don't really recommend charging adapters for long-term charging solutions. So we would recommend like kind of that straight NACS cable and connector as one. That's what we recommend. But however, we do know, much like plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, that you know these are the smart charging solutions that the industry desperately needs to tackle. You know, basically head on in order to accelerate the sustainability of transportation. So is it is a smaller, cheaper, and maybe easier solution than just adding a different charging cable to the station altogether. The thing is, with some of these stations, you'll have two cables, two different connectors. So each cable has a different connector, but you can only use one at a time. Recently, now you depending on your design, you may be able to use both chargers at the same time. But the problem is that if I'm using, the CCS connector, and then the person on the other side needs the CCS connector, but there's only a NACS connector there, then they can't use it, right? But now with the Omniport, now you have the ability where you can use whichever one you want, and then the other person on the other side can actually use whichever one they want. And so that's really good for getting as much charging availability out there, in the open market as we can. Look, cables are expensive, they're heavy, and they take up a lot of space. Not to mention they've been the target of vandalism, lately out in California. We don't want to see that, and so if this prevents that, then by all means, let's go for it. Now, um, you can power your vehicle with less hassle, but again, that charging adapter, it's so big, it's so bulky. It may be easier, it may be still safer, but is it more convenient? I don't know for the consumer. But again, we're all for it because we do understand that as the industry shifts to that one charging port, or that one charging connector standard, which is the next connector. Hopefully, if there were five different means of charging your car before, with five different, let's say, connectors, moving all to one, hopefully there's five different charging port locations on your EV. Hopefully, we as an industry can move to one actual charging port location on all EVs, which, let's say, since Tesla's the dominant force in that, let's say, is the driver's rear taillight. And so all the industry comes to one different, one standard connector, and then the entire industry comes with like to one, charging port location standard on all cars. And so therefore, EV providers, EV charging operators can actually design their equipment, their sites, their setup, all like basically harmoniously, no matter what EV plugs in. They can start designing it to where you're not having, to have a F-150 Lightning take up two parking spaces at a supercharger. Like, that's just insane. But if you had everyone using the same charging port and the same charging port location, you may be able to find much better user experiences across the board. So look, guys, thank you so much to our listeners and subscribers for your time today. I hope you guys have learned a little bit more to this episode. I hope it's brought a little bit more value to you. I love you guys, and yes, we can't do this without you. So definitely appreciate it, guys. Go ahead and click the thumbs up icon if you can. Share, comment, subscribe below to our channel if you think we earned it. And thanks again for charging up with us today. Keep in mind, you can always find us at smartchargeramerica.com. So remember, folks, if you can't charge, you can't drive. We'll see you next time. Cheers.